crazy.
You know, the French, we had a little kerfuffle in the early 90s with the French.
Oh, yeah?
And they were very angry with us.
About what?
Deservedly so. One of our young junior first tour guys got caught just pushing a little too far. So they expelled him, they expelled the chief, and they expelled a whole bunch of people. And so for 3-4 years, we had a tough time. But the French were just such dicks about it that we ended up getting orders that we weren't even allowed to transit De Gaulle Airport. And that was the only reason I was ever in France, was just to catch a connecting flight at De Gaulle, to go here or there, wherever in the Middle East. But a buddy of mine was, I forget where he was going, somewhere in the Middle East. And he went, no, it was in Africa. He was going to Africa. And the only way to get to Africa was through Paris at the time. Now you can just go directly to Morocco and then onward from there. But they took his laptop. He had a secure laptop. So they're like, turn it on. So he turns it on. Open it up. He's like, I'm not going to open it up. I have a diplomatic passport. I'm on the diplomatic business of the United States. This is the property rather of the U.S. Department of State. I'm not opening it up. So they took it in a back room. He said they had a railroad spike fastened to a table, and they just slammed it down on the railroad spike, went all the way through the laptop, and then they pulled it off and gave him his laptop back. So headquarters was like, okay, nobody can transit De Gaulle Airport anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, they're just jerks about it.
I've heard that they are incredibly talented.
They're very talented. When I was overseas in Pakistan, my boss asked me if I would meet with a French intelligence officer. I said, sure. I was meeting with foreign intelligence officers almost every day. And you just trade, you know, hey, I heard there's a safe house over here. I heard, hey, they give me Al Qaeda safe house over there. And we just trade some information. So this French guy calls me and he says, meet me at the corner of, you know, A and B. I'm like, okay, you don't just want to meet at a restaurant or something? No, meet me at this corner. So I go to this corner. It's in a residential neighborhood. I'm like, what? Does he live here? Like, why would he want me to come here? And I'm standing on the corner and he comes peeling down the street, makes a quick right, reaches over and opens my door and he's like, get in. And I said, oh, no. I said, I don't work for you and you're not using tradecraft on me. I said, I parked right over here. I'll meet you at the Pearl Hotel restaurant, coffee bar. Not going to fucking let you do there's a term of art for that kind of a pickup. No. You're not recruiting me. Mm. Yeah. We're going to have a cup of coffee and that's it. And then I never saw him again after the coffee.
So they're tough.
Yeah. And they're murderous too. You know,
murderous.
Oh yeah. If you're a member, for example, of Greenpeace, they're going to blow your brains out if you try to, you know, take over a ship or throw paint on a ship or whatever. They kill a lot of Greenpeace activists.
The French intelligence stuff.
Yeah.
Like not the paramilitary.
Oh, no. They're happy to go out and kill people. And that's why, that's one of the reasons why we don't have more of a presence in the Sahel right now in Africa. Because it's all French. They were all French colonies. The French are there just killing all kinds of Al-Qaeda people. Yeah, sure.
Oh, so they're killing Al-Qaeda people.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
I have
it's
no
not
problem
the worst
with
thing
that.
ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, the French hit squad's nice.
I mentioned in a podcast the other day that I was giving a series of speeches all around the UK at the beginning of the year. And I had 5 speeches with my conversant being a professor of English literature. I had 5 speeches with a kind of a B-list actor, and then 5 speeches with a retired MI6 officer. And one of the things he said, unprompted by me, was, you know, we really loved working with you guys until 9/11. And he said, you all became serial killers after 9/11. And I said, yeah, unfortunately, that's true. A lot of guys just went out to just kill as many Al-Qaeda people as they could find. Nobody was charged with a crime none of the Al-Qaeda people were ever charged with a crime. They were just taken care of. And then he says, yeah, you and the French. My God, the French love killing people. And I said, that was kind of my understanding as well.
It obviously is a slippery slope because then you start
Because remember, you're the good guy.
right.
And you're thinking, I'm the good guy, God and country. I'm going to protect my country from the terrible Muslim terrorists. And you go blowing brains out. And here you end up killing women and children and
That's the
taking out the whole village. And
That's the problem. Like as a tax-paying citizen that pays into these organizations, I will admit I wouldn't have a problem with, very tactical strike killings of very well-known,
clear and
proven,
present danger
yes,
is the criterion.
but when you're blowing up a fucking wedding because maybe two people are there, that's where I go.
Or
we
because
gotta
there's
find
a
better
tall
way.
guy wearing white. And then you blow up the funeral
Yeah.
the next day just to make sure you got everybody.
See, that's what I'm saying. Human nature every time, doesn't matter who you are, leads to strange slippery slopes. You hindsight 2020 at every time.
That's right.
People die, and then you create propaganda. Then you become the bad guy. And then there's situations where
There it is.
yeah.
Right there.
You were in trying to remember your exact timeline because you were working at Langley. You were the chief historian for Saddam Hussein leading into Desert Storm.
my first assignment. Yeah, in the Directorate of Intelligence.
And then you were still there for a few years. And then what year again did you hit the farm?
Oh, I didn't go to the farm until 1997.
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
I was halfway through my career.
And did they send you to Greece first?
Yes.
Okay. When did you get to Greece in 97 as well?
98.
Okay. All right. So that kind of takes away because what I'm interested in is like the French intelligence is, you're not the first guy to say that. Like so many people are like, yo, look out for them. They're fucking good. But like, first question, how well do they get along with MI6? There's always been a strange rivalry between France and England.
Yeah.
How well did those intelligence organizations?
It extends to the organizations themselves. Everybody knows by now what the Five Eyes countries are: US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. We have given each other literally carte blanche to do anything, to see anything, to go anywhere. We don't spy on each other. We literally had people sitting next to us from other intelligence services, foreign intelligence services from those countries. So that's a very special relationship. And it's even more important at some place like NSA than it is at CIA or FBI. But there are no other countries like that. The France is a NATO country. It's in the European Union. There's close cooperation. We're good friends. But we don't give them everything like we do with the Five Eyes.
So you weren't on the ground in Europe till 98.
Correct.
But when you look at an event like Princess Diana's death on August 31st, 1997, it happened in Paris. It happened in France. Is there any way the French intelligence doesn't know what happened there? I'm not saying they did it. I'm just saying, like, they got to know.
I would say they probably do. Yeah.
What do you think happened there?
I really believe it was a series of fuck-ups. The driver was drunk, being chased by the paparazzi. The paparazzi were overly aggressive. One thing led to the other. I don't remember if she was wearing a seatbelt or not. She had a crushed chest. I think she wasn't. Yeah, I think it was just one mistake after another.
It's possible. Yeah.
But I don't think the royal family assassinated her.
I agree.
Yeah, I never saw the
I
evidence.
never saw that either. And also, like, I don't think Prince, now King Charles, is that good of an actor. Like, I mean, that was very...
No way.
When you look at that, obviously they had their differences for sure, but as the mother of his kids and everything, and there was definitely some human shit going on there.
I think so,
believe it or not. I know it's very easy to, like, dehumanize the royal family just because, it's the fucking royal family.
Right. Right.
They are humans, so.
Yeah, they are.
But what's the, we were talking about nuclear war. If you mentioned the Indian, Pakistan example where maybe that would just be isolated, which, be for the best for everyone else. But if there was something where it wasn't something like that, and the U.S. got involved, what is the protocol in a situation like that? We all see the guy with the football carrying around the nuclear codes with the president. Obviously, the president has the say. He makes the decision, and then it's done. But is this something that happens in 60 seconds if it needs to?
Yeah, it is. This is a much easier question to answer if you're asking about a situation in which the United States is not directly involved. So yeah, we've got underground facilities. Like there's one called Mount Weather that is that's on the West Virginia line. There's another one in Colorado where the president, the vice president, their families, the cabinet, congressional leadership, their families can be whisked away. Everybody else, it's every man for himself. For the rest of us, yeah. Yeah, I live 3 miles from the White House. So I don't think I'm going to make it out. What are you going to do?
You won't feel anything.
No, it'll be fast. If there's a threat to the United States, like we believed there could be on 9/11, yeah, they'll implement that plan where the nuclear football goes with the president, just in case we have to launch something. The codes are in there. And he can launch from Mount Weather or from Colorado, wherever he happens to be. Air Force One just flying in circles someplace.
The thing that I wonder in the event of like mass nuclear strikes around the world happening is if the story of society completely breaks down and none of this stuff happens. Meaning it starts and there's such chaos that people are like, there is no president, including the people around them. Like, fuck you. Who are you?
You have to expect that would be a real possibility. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, look, we've all seen these post-apocalyptic movies or read the books. What was the Irish, the Long Road, the something road, the Road. That's what it was called, the Road. Yeah, there's been a nuclear conflict. It's every man for himself. And it's just a story of this man and his son just walking down this road. You don't know where it goes, where they came from. Is that what it is, the road?
Yeah,
Cormac McCarthy, that's right. They stumble on an underground bunker and they find a bunch of canned soup. And then the dad dies. And then the kid just keeps walking. That's how the book ends.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very Irish.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the good guy always loses. And the moral of the story is there's no hope for anybody.
We got a pub right down the street if you
want. There you go.
Want to go live that out. Yeah, I hate that. Like I said earlier, I hate that we even have to think about that.
Yeah.
But it does feel like, you know, you look at these different conflicts around the world, including the ones people don't talk about, by the way. Oof.
Did you ever see the episode of the original Star Trek where Kirk and Spock, they beam down to this planet, and this planet, the planet's leaders are yelling because the next door planet, they're having a war with them. And there's this announcement that everybody in group A has to go to the incinerator, right? So you go to the incinerator and you get incinerated. And Kirk is like, whoa, what's going on here? And they said, we came up with this treaty with the next door planet that since we hate each other, we're always fighting wars. There's no sense in blowing up all the buildings. So we have computer models that tell us how many people would have died if we launch, XYZ weapon. And so then we just summon that number of people to the incinerator and then they get incinerated. So at least we don't mess up our planets. And he's like, no, that's not a good idea. You have to negotiate peace. And then he ends up negotiating peace. But it's like we're headed there. This was all predicted in 1968.
Yeah, art following, life following art. Something I think about a lot. It does it's just human nature. Like that imagination comes from something that's based in reality of how we think.
Yes, exactly right.
I was talking with someone recently, I think it was Mike Ritlin, about like seeing the Nolan Batman series recently. I hadn't watched it in years. But the things that Christopher Nolan in a fucking superhero series, it's like supposed to be very fake and not of this world. The pulse that he had his finger on with society. Think about the years he filmed those movies: 04, 07, and 2011. They came out in 05, 08, and 2012. The themes, elites versus the everyman, social chaos, people out for themselves, Gotham falling from the inside.
Tell me that you've seen Soylent Green.
Soylent Green? No.
Soylent Green is people.
Soylent Green is people. So Soylent Green came out in the early 1970s. It's one of the great science fiction films of all time. Stars Charlton Heston.
Oh, I love Charlton.
He's a cop in the megalopolis. We've had such an explosion in population that from Boston to DC, it's just all one giant city. It's just all connected. So he's a cop in what used to be called Philadelphia. And eggs are $100 a piece. A jar of jelly is $150. There's one tree left in New York City, and they had to build a fort around it so it could be protected. It was the only tree that's left on the East Coast. And like I say, he's a cop, and he lives with this old man who was a professor. So nobody can afford to eat. So the government provides these little nutritional chips. There's Soylent Green, which is colored green, Soylent Red, Soylent Yellow. And it's like $1.98 a pound. So that's what everybody eats, what everybody lives on. In the meantime, there are such huge riots of hungry people that they have these big earth movers that just go scoop people up during demonstrations, and it throws them into the back of a dump truck, and then they just disappear. You don't know what happened to them. So Charlton Heston, he's barely able to make a living. At least, he's got Soylent Green he can eat. And the professor decides, he's 70 years old, he's sick. They have these suicide centers that you can just go, you lay in a bed, and they show you a film of just nature, deer running around and butterflies and birds tweeting. You've never seen anything like this before. So as they give you the lethal injection, that's what you get to see. And there's classical music playing, so it's all very nice. Charlton Heston runs to the suicide center to stop his friend from committing suicide. And he has to break into the place. He's too late to save him, but he follows the trail that they've taken the body to. And they take the body to a processing center where they're making Soylent Green out of all these people that they're scooping up at the demonstrations. And as they're arresting him and beating him, he shouts, "Soylent Green is people."
Oh my God.
We used to do this thing at the CIA. Just for fun. Like every time you have an operational meeting, you have to write a very detailed, like blow by blow, minute by minute account of the meeting. And CIA cables by nature are written only in capital letters. It's like some thing from the 50s. They just never changed it. So what people would do is they would make these random lowercase letters, but they did it so it would spell out Soylent Green as people in the cable. We would always get such a kick out of it because it would always make its way through the system. Nobody would pay any attention until like the one guy is reading it. And he's like, oh, they did it again.
The scary part about that is
I'm going to look for it.
It reminds me of that kind of story. Doesn't seem it seems far-fetched for tomorrow, but it doesn't seem far-fetched for somewhere in the future.
Well, this Soylent Green, it's 1973. I said 72. It's 73.
A lot of 70s was unbelievable.
It is on Amazon Prime right now for $3.99.
Okay, I'm definitely watching.
Don't miss it. It's one of the greatest science fiction movies.
I can't believe I haven't seen that.
I'm surprised.
I've watched a lot.
He did another one at the same time called The Omega Man, where he was the last man on Earth. There was some kind of pandemic, and a handful of people survived, but as like monsters, like Walking Dead kind of people.
Like I Am Legend almost.
In fact, I Am Legend was the reboot of The Omega Man.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, awesome. Love Charlton Heston. Met him once on the street in London. Couldn't have been nicer.
Is there anyone you don't know or you haven't bumped into at some point?
I was with my girlfriend. We were spending junior year abroad. And I took her to see a play called The Cane Mutiny Court Martial, and it starred Charlton Heston. And he was brilliant in this play. And she says, let's go around to the stage door and see if we can meet him. I said, no, it's such a cliche. No, I don't want to bother the man. He's not going to want to be bothered after working for 2 hours on stage like that. She's like, please, I love Charlton Heston. So we ran around back, and it was, I don't know, half a dozen other people back there. And he came out and could not have been any nicer, more cordial. Just a lovely guy.
Fucking Moses right there, dude.
I know, right? That's Moses.
That's Moses.
And that voice, like who in America doesn't know that voice?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, can't believe I have watched a fuck ton of movies from the 70s. The 70s was the 70s and the 90s for movies.
Oh, yes. My kids even got me a coffee table book called The Stewardess is Flying the Plane, Movies of the 1970s.
Yeah. Yeah,
loved it.
It's awesome stuff. Real quick, John, I just got to use the bathroom.
Of course.
So we'll be right back. All right, we're back. I haven't gotten your thoughts on your very good friend John Brennan now being in the crosshairs of.
He is. That's the way to say it. He's in the crosshairs of the Trump Justice Department. A couple of things I've noticed about John Brennan over the last couple of weeks. So he was challenged at George Mason University in Arlington, Virginia, by a Republican congressional candidate who I had never heard of and who didn't come close to winning anything. But the guy legitimately challenged him over, his role in the memo on a couple things. The memo on the Hunter Biden laptop, or the letter, I guess it is, and on the CIA's analysis that Russia was behind the Trump election. In the video that was shared widely on Twitter, Brennan actually pokes the guy in the chest several times. Besides that being assault, that was the first time in the 35 years that I've known John Brennan that I ever saw him lose his composure. Ever.
It's getting to him.
It's getting to him. He went on MSNBC that night looking exhausted and old beyond his years. And he disingenuously said, I don't know why they're doing this to me. I don't understand. I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, even by MSNBC standards, it was not believable or credible. And then just a few days later, some reporter shouted a question at him. It wasn't a reporter. It was in the Metro. It was a guy who may have been a reporter now in retrospect. Anyway, whoever it was a guy in the Metro. And Brennan went after him, went up to him with his finger and raised voice. A buddy of mine called, who's an attorney, and said, what do you make of, the John Brennan of the last couple of weeks? And I said, he's scared.
Yeah.
That's what this is. He's scared because they're going to find something to charge him with. And not only will they charge him, they have moved the case to the Southern District of Florida. Now remember, you have to charge the case in the federal district where the crime was allegedly committed. But what they did, I'll give you an example. In the case of Jeffrey Sterling, the CIA whistleblower, they said that he had leaked classified information to James Risen of the New York Times. Risen then wrote a book. A CIA secretary bought the book in Virginia, so charged him in Virginia. Well, Jeffrey lived in St. Louis. Risen worked in Bethesda, Maryland, and the New York Times is in New York. They charged him in Virginia. So they play these little games all the time.
Right.
Well, guess what? The game can be flipped. And so the U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, whom Trump just fired recently, said, I'm not seeing a crime. I'm not seeing a case. The investigation's not going anywhere. We're going to drop it. Okay, you're fired, and we're transferring the case to Florida. Because all you have to do is say, yeah, John Brennan coordinated that Hunter Biden laptop memo. I was in Miami when I read the memo on the MSNBC website. So
it's that easy.
It's that easy. But they never think about it coming back and biting them in the ass.
And that's the thing, John. Like, I think it's well documented long before I ever knew you, like looking at John Brennan's career and the kinds of things he did, to say nothing of the stuff that you've illuminated for many of us since then. There's no doubt in my mind that he's not a good guy.
No.
And that he has done a lot of things that could absolutely be taken into court and have a case made against it. And the anger at some of the things that he's done, of course, makes me want that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
What I worry about is all the cases that I think I righteously criticized that they were using with lawfare to make against Trump and people around him for years there, strictly because they didn't like him. I now have to be consistent in my criticism of the lawfare because it feels like we have now...
The pendulum is swinging.
The pendulum is swung, and we are setting dangerous precedents of political retribution, so much so that you have guys like Steve Bannon coming out and saying to people, if we don't win in 2028, people in this room are going to prison. And this is the same guy who's trying to go on there and talk about doing a third term for Trump, which is like against the whole fucking Constitution.
Can't do it. I want to read to you just a couple of sentences from former Attorney General of the United States and Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Robert Jackson.
Okay.
He said something that was very famous. He was also one of the judges at the Nuremberg trials. This is like one of the most important judges we've ever had, ever. Actually, let me find it. But he said something in a dinner, at a dinner event for attorneys. His speech was called The Federal Prosecutor. And I think I found it. He said a couple things in this speech. He said, "It is not the function of government to keep the citizen from falling to error. It is the function of the citizen to keep the government from falling to error." And to me, this is the most important thing he said. "With the law books filled with a great assortment of crimes, a prosecutor stands a fair chance of finding at least a technical violation of some act on the part of almost anyone.
Yes.
In such a case, it is not a question of discovering the commission of a crime and then looking for the man who has committed it. It's a question of picking the man and then searching the law books or putting investigators to work to pin some offense on him."
Oh, that's the Stalin bar. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime.
And there it is.
Oh my God.
And here we are, 85 years later, still having the same debates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now let me make that personal for a minute. You fucking hate that guy.
I do.
And righteously so. I hate him for you.
He ruined my life.
John Brennan.
Yeah.
He ruined your life. He, I believe, committed crimes, by the way, to ruin your life. If you look at the emails with him and Eric Holder and just some of the stuff he did. It's a guy who runs out and says, yeah, we shouldn't torture people, when he wrote the fucking torture
He was
memos.
the godfather of the torture program.
Yeah. Is there a part of you that would just love vengeance there?
Oh, yeah. I would love to see John Brennan go to prison. Even if it was just for a day or a week, just to be dragged down into the muck like he did to me and to Jeffrey Sterling and to Ed Snowden and so many of the rest of us. On the other hand, I believe in Robert Jackson and what he said. And I think that's what makes America great.
Yes.
That's what makes us the greatest country in the world, is we're governed by the rule of law. If he has legitimately committed crimes, and I believe he has, he should be prosecuted. If there are others who are under investigation, who are subject to prosecutors scouring the law books looking for a crime, I would prefer not to see something like that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very, it's scaring me a little bit.
Yeah.
The vitriol and anger, and it's human.
I asked a friend of mine, I have a friend at the Justice Department who's not working on the Brennan case, but who, has friends and colleagues who are. And I said, why hasn't Brennan been charged yet? I mean, they charged Comey with some silly crime that's probably going to get thrown out. Why haven't they charged Brennan? And he said, because they want to get that one right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They have an interesting perspective on Brennan. You know, most federal crimes have a 5-year statute of limitations. Most. What we've heard Brennan would be charged with has either a 5-year or a 1-year statute of limitations. I mean, they're talking about contempt of Congress. Big deal. The federal sentencing guideline calls for no prison time.
Right.
So who cares if he was in contempt of Congress? I don't care. Lying to Congress. He probably has crossed the statute of limitations. They probably can't charge him. But what their idea is that the Hunter Biden laptop memo, the Russia NIE, the Russia analysis was all part of an ongoing conspiracy to deny American voters their duly elected president. So the statute of limitations keeps restarting itself every day, so long as this conspiracy continues. And honestly, I think they've got him on that.
That's the thing. I think they might too. And this is where it gets weird for me, because no man's above the law, right? Mm-hmm. And it should be that
we sent
way.
a vice president of the United States to prison.
Yeah, that was
Spiro Agnew.
Spiro Agnew, right? They got the Greek guy.
Yeah, but he wasn't Orthodox, so it doesn't count.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But like, I look at that and I go, is the slippery slope of letting a man like John Brennan be above the law worse than the slippery slope of the precedents that we are setting across the board right now? And it's almost like, and people at home don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this either, especially when it comes to a guy like John Brennan. But it's almost like somebody here, we used this example for something else earlier, but someone here has to be the Martin Luther King and just be like,
we're bigger than this.
We're not doing this, because it's making, we're othering each other in this country.
See, and that's exactly why Joe Biden should have pardoned Donald Trump. So many people believed that's what he was going to do. Just like Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon for the betterment of the country.
Yes.
Bring the American people back together again. Joe Biden should have pardoned all of those Republicans.
I agree.
And he didn't.
I agree.
I agree with you really very much on this issue, that at the end of the day, what's more important is the strength of the country and the unity of the country. It was a mistake to charge Donald Trump with 34 felonies for not filling out a friggin' form for the state business commission or whatever the heck it was. That was dumb. It was a mistake to charge him. I don't even remember what the crime was alleged in Georgia. What was that? Oh, he called the Georgia Secretary of State and said, find the votes. Okay, he was excitable that day. It was the election. That's not a crime. That's just a guy having a bad day.
Yeah.
Comey, I understand they hate Comey. Comey's an idiot, frankly. For being as smart as he is, he's really stupid at the same time.
Yeah.
Like to take a picture of the shells, 8647. What the fuck are you thinking?
He's a moron.
You moron. Yeah. Brennan, however, is different in my mind. I believe Brennan was trying to enact a coup. I really believe it.
I think there's evidence that, even if you wanted to dress it up and call it like a shadow coup or something like that, however you want to say it, when you look at all the things that were disproven that were happening on his watch, 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1.
Seriously, and look at it this way too. There were a lot of bad guys at the CIA at the time that I was there in those circles. Right? I mean, we can say terrible things about George Tenet and John McLaughlin and Mike Morrell and Jose Rodriguez and Rick Prado and a lot of people. We can say there were a lot of crimes that were committed in the name of national security. Brennan's different. Brennan plotted against an elected president of the United States. And he tried to use this, the intelligence community and this lawfare against him. And we can't risk that happening again.
That is When you put it like that, it's about as sinister as it gets.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing, John. I think about this a lot. We've been the power in the world for a long time. We have always had people in different parts of power, be it government, bureaucracy, corporate, which,
Sure.
one feeds the other.
There's a lot of crossover.
Elites, etc., where there are some awful people and people who do corrupt things, people who get away with it sometimes because the issue becomes bigger than the person.
That's right.
And they're connected enough, so we sweep it under the rug. But I get this strange feeling that there is this deliberate movement now to paint everything that America has ever done as evil. It's all bad.
Oh, yeah.
Every single fucking
I hear
thing.
that a lot.
So I say this to a guy who was legitimately fucked over by the United States government and the worst types of people in it, who knows where evil happens and knows that we're not perfect and knows we've done evil shit around the world for sure. Do you have a problem with that narrative?
Oh my God, yes. I go to bed at night watching TikTok videos. I'll watch 100 of them before I finally fall asleep. And, they lead me to mostly First Amendment auditors who I just love. I just love them. And conservative YouTubers who will go out on the street and say, what's the best country in the world? And, do you believe the United States is the best country in the world? And they say, I would like to live in Denmark. Or this is the best country on earth. Period. I've been to 72 countries. I'm going to add another 5 more by the end of next year. This is the best country on earth. Of course we have problems because we're human. But the founding fathers gave us a system that is perfect for resolving those problems, right? The 3 co-equal branches of government. It's a little askew right now, but it's going to return to where it should be. It always does.
You think so?
I do. It always has through history. And it will again. But
what has to happen for it to return there?
Congress needs to find what happened to its ball sack.
Did it ever have one?
It vanished once upon a time. I remember Jimmy Carter complaining. I was a kid. I was in high school. Jimmy Carter complaining that he couldn't get anything done because Congress wouldn't do what he told him to do. And the Democrats controlled both houses of Congress. And they were like, we don't work for you. Co-equal branches of government. Well, we've forgotten that.
Right.
And so the Democrats are in lockstep with Joe Biden. The Republicans are in lockstep with Donald Trump. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Yes, work together. But look at the 80s under the Reagan presidency. The Democrats controlled the House. The Republicans controlled the Senate for the first 4 years or 6 years of either 4 or 6, I can't remember anymore, of the Reagan presidency. But the Speaker of the House was a Massachusetts liberal named Tip O'Neill. And what happened? The president would invite him over for breakfast, and they would sit and hash things out because they were both gentlemen, and that's how you got business done in Washington.
Let's make a deal.
Exactly. Everything is open to negotiation. Everything. So let's negotiate.
And you think we can get back to that?
I do. I think we can get back to that. Mm-hmm.
Besides, the broad general point, which is appreciative, Congress has to find their balls again.
Yeah. They're all bums.
Yeah, but so how do you flush out the attitudes that have formed on both sides within Congress and Senate at this point where they don't want to do that?
I think that we need to elect more independent thinkers. Listen, I made fun, for example. I made awful fun of Marjorie Taylor Greene when she was first elected. The Jewish space lasers and she's cheating on her husband. Yeah. And I find myself agreeing with Marjorie Taylor Greene like 80% of the time now.
Wow.
It's nuts. I haven't changed. I see Marjorie Taylor Greene as having matured in her role as a member of Congress. Yeah, like, wait a minute. This isn't how Congress is supposed to work.
What do you like about what she says?
I see her as something of a very out there civil libertarian in the mold of Thomas Massey, let's say. She's not as smart as Thomas Massey, of course, but they take a lot of similar positions. Like Rand Paul is another example. Bernie Sanders on the Democratic side is another one. But I think we need more people like that. There's a guy who's been running in the Democratic primary against Nancy Pelosi for years. I met him in like 2016. I don't remember his name. It's an Indian name, and I just don't recall what it is. The guy's an attorney. He's very smart, very bright guy. He's an activist. We need for him to run against people like Nancy Pelosi. I thank my lucky stars that Nancy Pelosi is not running for re-election. Of course, she's so young at 82, right?
Yeah,
That's the guy. That's the
Saikat
guy.
Chakrabarti.
I met him at the San Francisco Film Festival when we stopped and chatted. I had never heard of him before. And
How
he's
do
like,
you say that name? I just butchered that.
Chakrabarti.
Chakrabarti.
Chakrabarti. I've got a friend. He's an originally Indian, naturalized American. Bert Thacker. Shout out to Bert Thacker.
Shout out, Bert.
Bert's a two-time Jeopardy champion. Number one. Number two, he is a former Republican congressional candidate in Southern California, moved to Texas, got himself elected to the city council in the city he went to, and is already planning his congressional campaign. We need to have 435 people like Bert Thacker, because then we would get stuff done in this country. Bert cares almost not at all about party affiliation. He happens to be a Republican,
Right.
but he just wants to get stuff solved, get things done.
I think a big difference today that's causing a huge problem, which should be like the biggest benefit ever, is the fact that all of us have a voice behind a keyboard online, and we police each other for thought. And then where does that sound very familiar
So
from?
dangerous.
Online, that then forces its way towards the ballot box and the people who get elected there who are from that same world and understand it, or if they're not from that world, understand that they have to live in it. So, for example, you're Nancy Pelosi. You can't possibly make a deal with Donald Trump. That won't play well on TikTok. It won't. No, you could. It won't play well on Instagram. It won't play well on Twitter. And you're going to be viewed as a traitor to your people for doing that. Whereas Nancy Pelosi could have tied one off, fucking 25 years ago if Donald Trump were president, and, come up with a deal at a fucking K Street steakhouse, and shit could have actually happened.
Which is exactly how Washington used to work. Yes, you're exactly right. You knew that if you went to the Oval Room at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night, the entire Senate leadership was going to be there having steaks and trying to figure out what to do about the budget.
Right.
At the Trump Hotel, when there was a Trump Hotel in Washington, I went with friends a couple of times, more than a couple of times, and we joked that, like, my God, is there a single member of the Republican House leadership who's not at the bar right now? Like, literally every single one of them. But that's how you get stuff done.
Yes.
When I was in college, it was quite common for members of Congress to share group houses up on Capitol Hill. You'd pack 6, 7, 8 guys in a house because it's expensive in Washington. You have to maintain a house in your district, right? And your family's probably in the district. You still have to have somewhere to live in Washington. So, and they don't really make any money. Well, they do now.
Great stock pickers.
220. It's like a
Phenomenal.
miracle. Like a miracle.
They're incredible at it.
Crystal ball. So, so it wasn't unusual to have, 3 Dems and 3 Republicans in a house, or 4 and 4. They'd play poker on Fridays. They'd go to church together on Sundays. And then, they would argue in committee, but they're all friends. And they knew that at the end of the day, they could negotiate a deal.
Mm.
And that's just not the case anymore.
Yeah, that's where I'm having trouble seeing how that becomes the case again.
Yeah.
Because of how people have just been so, and in this kind of job, I see it all the time. You know, how much people just jump to conclusions on the minute they hear an opinion they don't agree with, they're gone.
Yeah.
They're really not, but they say that.
I get that all the time. Listen, I'm going to say something that's going to cause me trouble, but I'm going to say it anyway. I gave an interview to an Indian news outlet 2 weeks ago, and I didn't say anything that I haven't said 1,000 times. For whatever reason, and this is why, as a matter of policy, listen, I'm serious. No more interviews to any Indian or Pakistani news outlets ever again. Okay.
Got that on the record.
John's policy. Done. Because they just make shit up and put it in a banner headline with 2 exclamation points and say that this CIA officer finally reveals the truth behind, like, no. I told you, my information's 25 years old. Okay, so I said one thing. I said, in a conventional conflict, India would beat Pakistan. Because it has 5 times the people.
Yeah.
The death threats, I've lost count of how many death threats I received. And then the best of all, like my lawyer's like, got to keep a low profile, just be aware of your surroundings. I know, right?
John's like,
yeah.
Fuck you.
So I get a letter from the president of Imran Khan's political party, right?
Man.
Whatever it's called, the Pakistan, whatever party.
You got a letter.
A letter in the mail.
Interview.
And he says that they condemn in the strongest possible terms what I said to the Indians, and they demand an immediate apology to His Excellency, the former Prime Minister, to the members of the party, and to the people of Pakistan.
For giving an opinion?
Yeah. So my lawyer's like, just throw it away. Just throw it away. So I didn't throw it away. I sent him an email and I said,
oh my God.
in regards to your demand for an apology, I wipe my ass with your demands for an apology. And I hit send. And that's how I left it. And I haven't heard back from them. So my lawyer's like, well, that speaking offer at the Pakistani military academy, yeah, you're not going to be doing that. And I said, no, I'll never go back ever again. But they don't treat me with respect anyway.
You could have just said, explain bin Laden.
Yeah,
Start
exactly.
There. I mean, yeah, like it would appear mathematically India would body bag Pakistan. No,
yes,
no,
they would.
Pakistan, no disrespect. It's just,
And you know why they hate each other so much? Because they're exactly alike. That's why.
Really?
It used to be one country, right? India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh was one country called the Indian subcontinent, right? And then in 1947, India and Pakistan had a brutal, bloody war and they split off. So all the Muslims went west to Pakistan and all the Hindus went east to India. But now there are more Muslims than there are, pretty much anybody else. And they have a higher birth rate in India.
Right.
But anyway, and then by 1971, I think it was, Bangladesh is like, screw this. They're part of Pakistan. They were called East Pakistan. And they're like, Pakistan's all the way over there. We disagree with everything. So we're going to be independent too. And they created Bangladesh. Okay, well, India has 5 times more people than Pakistan does. And the Bangladeshis like the Indians. And the Afghans like the Indians and hate the Pakistanis. So if you're Pakistan and you're outmanned and surrounded by your enemies, you going to win that fight?
Yeah, they don't seem to have like a lot of friends.
No.
Right?
No. Because they write threatening letters and expect immediate action.
I love that they wanted a retraction.
Yeah, retraction.
Like, last time I was in your country, I ran the greatest targeting mission in modern history.
That's right.
Don't fuck with me.
That's right. And he wants a... He neglected to say in the letter that his prime minister is in prison right now.
Oh, he's in prison?
Oh, yeah, he's in
Why
prison.
is he in prison?
Oh, for all kinds of reasons. Treason and
he's still
corruption.
prime minister?
No, they deposed him.
So he's not running it from the prison cell?
No. Well, he's running the party from his prison cell.
Got it.
They got a new prime minister.
It's so awkward.
Yeah, and he wants an apology from me. No, I think you should apologize to all of the people of Pakistan for being a, typical corrupt leader in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
They're all corrupt.
Yeah.
Listen, one time I was with a colleague, a more senior colleague. We went to see Benazir Bhutto. She was in exile in Dubai. And her husband was this guy, Zardari. I think his first name is Hussein, something like that. And so we're at her beachfront mansion, her $10 million beachfront mansion in Dubai. This is a woman who was making, $60,000 a year as prime minister.
Hey, listen, good investor.
Right. So we hear a car pulling up outside, and she said something offhandedly that has just been ingrained in my mind ever since. She says, "So help me God, if he's pulling up in another Bentley, I'm going to lose my mind." And my boss and I kind of look at each other like, corrupt a little bit?
Yeah.
You make $60,000 a year. How many Bentleys do you have with your $10 million beachfront house in Dubai? And then she went back, became prime minister again, got shot in the head. Now he's the president of Pakistan. Her husband, her corrupt husband.
Funny how the world works.
Yeah.
That is the thing. The patterns are the same everywhere in different societies.
Human nature.
It's human nature. You get people that get into powerful positions that have connections to be able to do things that the average person can't, whether it's legal or not. They do it. You're 100%. It is human nature. And like now in the internet era, we can just see it more right in front of us.
I think you're exactly right about that. Yeah. The information is much more readily available for us. It's just there almost instantaneously.
How much in your career at CIA did you either see directly or get an inkling or a vibe of, say, elite forces that were not a part of CIA playing roles or having say or having some sort of influence over decisions that the agency was making?
I didn't.
Never.
No. It was always the other way around. After 9/11, we were short on special forces guys. We had this thing called the Special Activities Division. And then within the Counterterrorism Center, there was the Special Activities Group. But we needed operators, like not the ones like John that were going to, wine and dine the guy and recruit him. Exactly. And so we just borrowed people from the special forces. So all of a sudden, I mean, like in the matter of a week or two after 9/11, we've got SEALs, we have Delta, we have Rangers, we have all these people, and they're not what you might imagine. They're not these buff, he-men that stepped out of a magazine. They had 5 days beard, a little bit of a gut. They could do some heavy drinking and then get up and run 5 miles, which I never understood. But they knew exactly what the mission was. And by God, they were happy to get on a plane, jump out the back of it, and then do the mission and then figure out how to rescue them later.
I've had a couple of those guys sitting here.
Yeah, they're very, very tough guys. Yeah.
They're built a little different.
Yeah, they are. I've never understood how guys like that can negotiate the psychological weight of what comes with their jobs.
It is the fact that you haven't figured that out is not reassuring, because I sit here and wonder the same thing sometimes. The only thing I can come up with is there's just a different gene.
I think that's it. I've got two friends. One was a medic on SEAL Team 2. He's an older guy. He's about 8 years older than I am. So this is when the SEAL teams were first created out of what used to be called the underwater demolition teams. And I've got a buddy who's currently a SEAL. I won't say which team. He's the son-in-law of a very close friend of mine. He does struggle with these issues. My older friend from SEAL Team 2 sleeps like a baby every night. No problem.
I think it's person to person.
I think it is.
Right?
Yeah.
But also they pick certain guys for certain teams or certain missions.
That's right.
Who maybe they've tested under scrutiny and stress. Not to say, by the way, that sometimes once the guys are done their career and come home, they don't bring it home with them.
And they frequently do.
Oh yeah.
They frequently do. And it's a sad thing to see.
It's sad, but when they're in there, there's something about like go.
Mission.
And that's
it's all about the mission.
Yeah. glad they're on my side though.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
Yep. Got that right.
So they were just, and I mean, I've talked with guys about this before. It was obviously like a shit show right after 9/11,
Sure.
all hands on deck. But basically the way you're explaining it is a lot of these guys, minus just some of the basic like on the ground forces we know from the paramilitary operation that happened right away in Afghanistan. But a lot of these guys were literally like, hey, you're in, you're read in, you're
and
intel.
They're done. They just showed up one day. I'm telling you, at the counterterrorism center, we more than doubled in size within 2-3 days.
Wow.
And then even after that, all these special forces guys just arrived. Like, okay, where do we go? And then they started doing their thing.
And how soon was it after the towers came down that you were first approached about with the enhanced interrogation?
Oh, it was quite some time. Towers came down on September 11th. Mm-hmm. We started bombing Afghanistan in early October. It was in late October that Mitchell and Jessen were introduced to George Tenet at a cocktail party. They pitched the so-called enhanced interrogation techniques. I think we signed the contract in January, and then we were just waiting to see who's the first guy we're going to catch. We caught Abu Zubaydah in March.
Yeah, I was going to say you were going to Pakistan.
And then I was approached the first week of May of 2002.
Okay. And then you were still in there for a few years afterwards. I mean, obviously that is the core part of your story. We've told that on episode 249 and 250 a bunch before. We don't have to go through all that.
Sure.
But that was a disturbing thing that you saw at CIA.
Yeah.
Are there other things now, years later, that you're willing to talk about that you came across that maybe didn't involve you directly like that, where people were like, hey, we want to actually bring you in on this, that you just found viciously disturbing that they were doing?
No. I've all throughout my CIA career, I worked with people who were doing their jobs to the highest ethical standard. It was because post 9/11 and everybody just kind of went nuts because this was the greatest intelligence failure in the CIA's history. And because it was specific to the counterterrorism center. I think that's why there was so much that was sort of revealed to me. But otherwise, no. In fact, one time I was the note taker. I was living in Bahrain at the time, and Ambassador David Ransom, just an absolutely lovely guy, one of the finest human beings I've ever worked for. He was a terrific ambassador and just a really great guy. He would frequently ask me to be the note taker in his meetings with the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And the minister liked me, and I liked him. His English was better than mine, crazy as that might sound. But if there was something sensitive that the ambassador needed to raise, he would always mention it to me in the car on the way to the foreign ministry. Like, don't let me forget to say X. And I'd jot down a note. So we went to see the foreign minister one time, and he did forget to say X. And so at the end of the meeting, these meetings would go 2 hours. He turned to me and he said, is there anything else? Is there anything that I'm forgetting? And I said, yes, there's the issue with Ambassador so-and-so. And he said, oh, that's right. And he said to the foreign minister, one of my predecessors here in Bahrain, it's come to my attention, is now working for the Bob Dole campaign. And we understand that he may come out here and ask you for money. It is illegal for a foreign national to contribute money to an American political campaign. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. And the minister says, oh, he's already been here. We gave him $50,000. We didn't realize it was illegal, but he went to see the emir, and the emir gave him $50,000. So we get back in the car, and the ambassador says, listen, that last part, don't put that in a cable. He said, that's a hornet's nest that I don't think either one of us want to be involved in. So I didn't put it in the cable. You break the cable out by issue, like the ambassador's meeting with the foreign minister, Middle East peace, the ambassador's meeting with foreign minister, the military agreement with the United States, ambassador's meeting with the foreign minister, Iran, and the threat from, whatever. He told me not to write that. This was like a month or 2 or 3 before I left to go back to headquarters. And I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And I thought, for my own selfish reasons, what happens if I go for my next polygraph and they ask me if I'm aware of a crime that I didn't report? Then it's me. Then I get fired.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.